So, Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's really snowing right here in Alberta. Is it snowing bad right there in Ontario?
Yeah, we got some snow on the streets in Toronto today, no question about it. Now tell me, before we get started, that jersey you're wearing, can you explain that to me?
Oh yeah, this just so you know, this is the first time I've worn this. My mom bought this for me back in 2019, right there in Niagara Falls.
Terrific. And what is it?
It's just a tourist jersey. It's just we bought it in one of the gift shops.
Got it. I thought maybe it was a baseball team or something I didn't know about, but I'm glad to hear it's not. Because I like to think I know a lot about baseball, and I'd never heard of the Niagara. I don't know what they are in blue.
It's just Niagara
Oh,
Falls.
it's just the falls. Got it. Okay.
Tell me about that Walter Cronkite poster at the back.
Well, this is well before your time, but Walter Cronkite was a big deal when I was your age. How old are you?
21, sir.
Sure. Okay. So Walter Cronkite was the chief news anchor of the CBS Evening News when I was your age, and he was kind of the gold standard. He was the guy who, former President Lyndon Johnson once said, "If I've lost Cronkite, I've lost the country." That's how much he felt Walter Cronkite sort of represented the everyday person in the United States. And so I had a neighbor here who wanted to get rid of the poster, didn't, I don't know, whatever, it was downsizing. And she thought I would like it. And as a result, gave it to me. And I keep it up there because I thought he was pretty good. And that's something I aspire to be, is pretty good.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So here we go. So Steve, tell me about yourself and your growing up story.
It's pretty simple. I had a very blessed childhood, a blessedly normal childhood in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I was born in 1960. A couple of years later, my brother Jeff came along. So we're a family of four, two boys growing up on the West Mountain in Hamilton. And, it was the kind of neighborhood, Nigel, where we had lots of kids. So there was always a game of road hockey after school every day or a game of touch football when the weather got a little bit better. And, these were the days when we did not have what you'd call today helicopter parents.
Oh,
So our parents, I don't think well, I shouldn't say they didn't care, but they weren't out there, watching us every second of every day to make sure we didn't get into trouble. We came home from school, we did whatever homework we had to do, we got out there and we started to play and we played until it got dark. And, that's the way it went back then. Parents weren't always in your business and they they kind of let you be you. And
ah,
it was a good time and a good place to grow up.
nice. So any childhood memories, games or friends?
All of the above, yes. Um, in fact, I'm really delighted to say that a lot of the kids that I grew up with, playing hockey with after school, I'm still in touch with some of them. I run into them every now and then, and it's always we have very warm memories of those times. I lived on um, a very small street. There's only two houses on the street, us and the folks across the road. So it was kind of perfect for road hockey. It wasn't a street which got a lot of car traffic, and um, yeah, it was great. It was great, and we made great friendships, and it was a very fun time.
Okay, so I guess two houses on two houses on one street. It was tough growing up, I guess. Or
Tough
I
growing
mean
up.
it's just the idea of having just two people on just one street, not much car traffic, but it's good. But is there you think is there any downsides?
None that I could think of. I always thought we had you know, the best thing about it was I had two fantastic parents who were just great role models, and that kind of got us established. That got my brother and me established for the rest of our lives. That we had two role models who were really good at what they did, and wonderful role models for us for the rest of our lives.
Ah, I see. So Steve, why do you do what you do?
Because it's all I know how to do, and it's
Oh,
all I ever wanted to do, and it's really all I can do. I look around and I've seen all the different occupations and professions that other people do, and I've just never been interested in doing any of them. I've never thought I could do any of them. I've always thought, I've been in journalism now as a professional for 43 years, and I feel very fortunate to have found something that I really have wanted to do. And I still enjoy doing very much. 65 years old, and I'm still loving every day of doing it. So that's why I do what I do, because I still can and I love it and I want to, and I'm still trying to make a little bit of a contribution to all of this.
Got it. Okay. So Steve, what kind of mindset did you have when you first started?
I think the mindset was just try to be as good as you can be. And I understood, even at the age of, how old was I when I got my first job? I think I was 20, 21 or 22 when I got my first full-time job in journalism. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm not necessarily going to be the most talented person doing this, but nobody's going to outwork me. I'm going to work as long and as hard as I have to in order to get good at this so that I can do this for a career. And I think that's what happened. I put in the hours required to try to get better. And I still do it. And this is not false modesty, Nigel. I still do it every day in hopes of getting better at what I'm doing. And I still think, maybe in my own naive way, that it's still possible to get better at it. Goodness knows I'm giving it a try.
So I guess you're always learning every day.
Yeah. And in fact, I've worked at TVO for 33 years. I'm still affiliated with TVO, even though I'm not a full-time employee. And that was our slogan, never stop learning. And I
Or
never
stop.
have.
Okay. What do you mean you're not a full-time employee anymore?
Well, when my last contract expired back in June of this year, the agenda was wound up by mutual agreement. I had signed a contract 3 years earlier, and we both sides had agreed at that point this would be the last contract. When the 3 years was up, we would wrap up doing the agenda after 19 seasons. I always thought you should leave the party an hour early versus a minute too late. And while I still thought I could do the job and I liked the job, I did not want to overstay my welcome. So we wrapped that up, and I am now a part-time employee of TVO, still co-hosting the weekly On Poly podcast about Ontario politics with my pal JMM, John Michael McGrath. I still do a weekly column for the TVO website. I still host a monthly show called TVO Today Live, which is kind of a town hall show. But now I've replaced the agenda with about 7 or 8 other things as well. So I've started a new show called the Paikin Podcast,
Mhm.
which is a weekly thing, sometimes national affairs with two former parliamentarians, sometimes international affairs with Janice Stein from the Monk School, one-on-one interviews. Just earlier today, I interviewed Jim Balsillie, the founder of
Oh,
BlackBerry, co-founder of BlackBerry, for a one-on-one for the Paikin Podcast. So I'm doing all of that. I do a bi-weekly column for the Toronto Star now. I'm producing a documentary as well on a subject that is near and dear to my heart. And I am writing
hockey?
3 books. Yeah, hockey is right. And I'm writing 3 books at the moment as well. And there's probably something else I've forgotten, but that's enough. I'm
Okay,
still
cool.
plenty active.
I see. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry if I interrupted a bit.
Not at all. The documentary is about the greatest goal ever scored in Toronto Maple Leaf history. And it was scored before both you and I were alive. So I won't be surprised if you've never heard of it. You want to
I've
take a
never heard of
guess?
it. I've never heard of it. Not a big sports fan, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody's perfect, Nigel.
Got it. Got it. Thanks.
The goal was scored by Bill Barilko, which, if you're a Tragically Hip fan, you will know the song 50 Mission Cap. Bill Barilko scored the goal that won the Leafs the cup. He scored it in 1951, so next year is the 75th anniversary. After taking a brief time off after winning the Stanley Cup for the Leafs, scoring in overtime to beat the Canadiens, he went on a fishing trip. And while he was flying up north in northern Ontario to go fishing, the plane crashed and disappeared without a trace for 11 years, during which time the Leafs never won another Stanley Cup. In 1962, they found the bodies. The Leafs won the cup. So it's a pretty mythical story about the game we love and a guy who tragically was taken from us at only age 24.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's an interesting story.
That's why I want to do a documentary on it.
Ah, okay. It's just the coincidence and all that.
Well, it's a crazy story. I mean, quite shocking. And frankly, I think if we were Americans, the mythology around it would have been told 100 times over. But nobody's ever made a feature-length documentary on this story. So, and I've always been fascinated by the story as a lifelong Leaf fan. So
Ah,
we're going to do it.
ah, I see. I see. So, Steve, what helped you get started in the television business?
What helped get me started? First of all, the desire to do it. I'd done 3 years in radio at CHFI and what was then called
CFTR?
CFTR. Yep, now 680 News,
Hmm.
um, or City News 680. I don't know. They've changed the name a couple of times in the last few years.
Oh, they
So I
just
used
did.
to be City Hall reporter there from 82 to 85. And then I wanted to try television. And I went for a job interview with a guy named Howard Bernstein, who was the executive producer, guy I still see and get together with 40 years later. And Howard gave me my big break. And he said, we'll take you on a 4 month contract. And if you're any good, we'll flip it over. And the 4 months became 9 months, became 1 year. And eventually they signed me up full time. So I spent the next 7 years of my career at CBC doing, Nigel, every job you can imagine. I did street news reporting, I did features, I did news, entertainment, sports, I did radio, I did television, I did local television, I did national television. I got a great taste of everything, and that all led me eventually to TVO.
I see. And speaking of CFTR, they're back to just being called 680 News Radio.
Oh, okay. 680 News Radio. Well, that's what they do, so that's a good name for it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Steve, what were the lessons that you learned in your 30 plus years in TVO?
Well, I mean, that's a hard question to answer only because I think I've learned a lot of lessons. Number
Wow.
one, of course, try to be as good as you can at what you do. Number two, try to work well with others. It's not a one man show. I can't do it. I may be the anchor of the show, but I can't do a damn thing um, without a team to work with. And by that, I mean producers, executive producer, technical crew, the director. There's a whole range of people you got to work well with to get anything done. So I think being a team player is hugely important as well. Number three, care a great deal about integrity and getting stuff right. It's always easier to be, an extremist and get involved in the food fight and try to be as sensationalistic as possible. There's certainly a lot of that going on nowadays. But I think you have to be true to yourself. And that was never my personality. My personality was, well, I think what you've seen on TV every night for the last 40 years, which is to be sort of calmer in the more moderate middle and worry about getting details right and worry about looking fair and worry about people coming away feeling like they learned something.
Uh,
And I
I,
don't need the sensationalistic food fight to feel like I'm doing my job well. I've always avoided that. I prefer other things.
I see.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. And how do you maintain fairness?
I think I maintain it because in my bones I am. I really believe that. Now maybe, other people look at my work and say you weren't fair here or you weren't fair there, and I'm sure over the course of doing 40,000 interviews in my life, not every single question has been fair or perfect. But in the main, I believe I am a fair person who strives for fairness and who wants to give all competing views a fair shot. So, yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
Okay. Okay. And uh, and Steve, what was it like moderating the federal and provincial election debates?
I've had the misfortune of doing 9 of them, Nigel,
Oh,
um, and they are nerve wracking. I don't mind saying, when I was hosting the agenda on TVO, maybe 100,000 people would watch every night. When you're doing a leaders debate, a national leaders debate for a federal election, it's probably 6 million people watching. So if you screw up, the consequences are a lot more significant.
okay.
But it's a kind of a thing where it's an honor to have been asked to do it. There are not very many people who get a chance to do this in the course of their journalistic careers, so I I always wanted to do one. I waited a long time to do the first one. I think I started in journalism in 1982, and I think the first one I did was in 2003. So do the math there. I think I waited 21 years to do my first one, and
Oh,
then since 2003, I've done eight more, and um, after they're done, if they go well, you can exhale and say, "Well, I enjoyed that." But while you're doing it, it's not all that enjoyable. You really want to make sure. You talked about fairness a moment ago. You really want to make sure you're being fair to everybody. And I think one of the things that I was most grateful to hear after the last leaders' debate earlier this year was from the conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, who said, I just spent 2 hours with you and I have no idea how you'll vote. And I appreciated him saying that. That's what I believe in my heart. I believe that I don't have a dog in the hunt, that my job there is to be faithful to fairness. And, if his comment is any indication, I think I was.
I see. That's good. Well, first of all, good job there. And oh yeah, I think I missed one. Who was your first ever interview, and were you nervous?
Of course, I was nervous. I was 22 years old. The interview was with a guy named Hugh Heron, who was a
Oh,
home builder in the Southern Ontario area. And Hugh had this great accent. He was a great Scotsman and he had a wonderful accent. And I went out and interviewed him about the fact, I mean, we were in the middle of a terrible recession at the time, and I wanted to do an interview with him for CHFI News on what was going on in housing and how governments could be helpful to encourage further home construction, not unlike the way things are today. And this 22-year-old kid with his tape recorder walked in, and Hugh could have taken me out to the woodshed given how bad I was. But instead, he was very generous and understanding and just, um, you know, um, was a perfect gentleman in putting up with my nerves and inexperience. And I've never forgotten it, which is why, 43 years later, I still remember that he was my first one.
oh, oh, okay. That's interesting. Oh, and speaking of CHFI, CFTR, you think at some point you could go back there, just not doing this whole reporter? Probably, probably a disc jockey, just playing the hits. Would you imagine
Mm,
yourself that?
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think I'm going to be a DJ playing the hits. But I love radio. I've always loved radio. Up until recently, I was doing Tuesday mornings on 640 Toronto, a
Oh,
feature that they had every morning at 7:30 called Think Tank, and I would do that for half an hour with Greg Brady and Chloe Brown. And they've just wound up that feature. But I love radio, and I'd be happy to go back and do something someday.
I see. I see. I see. This one. Okay, so here's another one. Steve, you said LVOs was Mr. TVO back in the day. Do you or your viewers consider you as the modern Mr. TVO now?
No,
Oh,
Elwie will. I'm a person of a certain age, so for me, Mr. TVO is always going to be Elwie Yost. And I'll tell you, one of the greatest days of my life in journalism was my first day at TVO. This is in August of 1992. And Elwie and I were on the set together, and he was introducing me to the TVO viewership. And he put his hand on my arm and he said, "I want to welcome this newcomer to the TVO family. And we hope you have a great, long run here." And, it was almost, well, I don't want to push this comparison too far, but it's almost like a preacher laid hands on me and said, "Kid, you're okay, and you're going to do well here." And I hope I have performed well enough to live up to Elwie's advanced billing, because that sure was meaningful to me to have him say those things about me.
okay. Is there another memories of you with LB Yost?
The first time I met him actually was not a TVO at all. The first time I met him, I was an anchor of an afternoon show on CBC News Network, which back then was called News World.
Oh,
And I wanted to do a segment on movies. I guess it probably was around the time of the Academy Awards. And so I called him up one day and I said, "I'm doing this little show. Would you come on and be a guest?" So that's the first time I ever actually spoke to him. I'm trying to remember what year that was, probably 1990, 91, something like that. And I would never have guessed when we did that interview that a year or two later, we'd be working at the same channel.
Ah, I see. I see. Okay. And okay. And Steve, when did you start watching TV?
Oh, well before I worked there. In fact, that's one of the reasons I wanted to work there is that I was a viewer and I was a donor. I liked what they were doing, and
Owner.
made a donation like so many people around Ontario do. I liked the shows. I liked the brand of the place. I liked the commitment to kind of treating people as citizens as opposed to consumers to be delivered as eyeballs to advertisers. I liked that distinction. I thought they did quality educational programming. I never thought about working there until I guess the spring of 1992, when the chair and CEO of the place, a guy named Peter Herndorf, called me in for an interview and said, "We're about to do some new and interesting things here, which we think you would be good for. Can we talk?" And it was only then that I considered working there and had no qualms whatsoever about leaving a national big broadcaster like the CBC to go work for a smaller regional broadcaster like TVO because I just loved what TVO was doing and I wanted to be a part of it.
I see. And I heard that you were a donor. What's it like being a donor?
Well, let me start by saying I think it's perfectly wonderful if people just want to watch what TVO puts out. They do a lot of different kinds of programming, everything from the best kids programming around to, current affairs and documentaries and so on. And if they just want to watch it and support the place that way, that's great. I mean, we do love eyeballs. On the other
Ah,
hand, now I don't know what the numbers are now because I haven't checked lately, but certainly when I was there as a full timer, I think something like 80,000 people in Ontario dug into their pockets and actually, despite already supporting TVO through their taxes, they gave more. And I always found that to be very inspiring. I thought, you know what, you're already supporting the place through the taxes you pay, but you want to give more because you like what we're doing. And I was one of those kind of people. I was paying my share of taxes as a reporter at CBC, but I liked what TVO was doing, and so I gave them a few shekels of my own, and I'm and continue to do. It's a place worth supporting.
okay. Okay. And speaking of eyeballs, TV Ontario used to be called the Ontario Educational Communications Authority, which is
Yes.
the name of their parent. Yes, the logo is known to be scary because of the animation, the background, and the fact that it looked like a knife. I mean, just like you said, eyeballs.
Yeah.
Were you scared of it growing up? Which I don't think you might be scared of it considering you were like 10 or 12 around that time.
I was not scared of it. And frankly, I don't remember it all that well. TVO signed on, I think, in September of 1970. And I don't
Okay.
really have any recollection of that logo. The first logo I really remember was sort of the stylized red TVO.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to describe, but if people remember what it looks like, they'll know what I'm talking about. And that's the one I really remember. And you know what? Just a few years ago, we decided to bring that back for a sort of a sweatshirt, t-shirt campaign. And
oh,
I just love the nostalgia of that original logo. So I got myself one of those sweatshirts, and I've still got it. And yeah, that's the look of TVO that I certainly remember, which would have been more as a teenager.
I see, I see. But there are like old photos of TVO and OECA online if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from the podcast, what are other things or other avenues you want to do?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm not, Nigel, there's a lot of people who have sort of 5-year plans, right? They say, here's where I am today, here's where I want to be 5 years from now, here are the things I want to do along the way to get me to there. I have never been one of those kind of people. I've never had a 5-year plan. I've never known what next year would bring. I've always been of the moment. I've always
Oh,
been, here's what I want to do now. And if it leads to something else that's equally interesting, great, I'll do that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm doing 10 different things right now is that once the agenda ended, I mean, I knew there were a few things that I wanted to undertake. I wanted to start my own podcast. I wanted to do a column in the Star. I wanted to do the Barilko documentary, but a lot of other things, like the three books I'm writing right now, they all came to me. I didn't seek them. So a lot of this stuff just sort of happens. And, from time to time, I get asked to give speeches at conferences or something. That's not stuff I really seek. That's stuff people ask me to do. So I'm just, I don't golf, but I understand there's an expression in golf that says you play it where it lies. And that's what I do. I just sort of I do my thing right now, and what it leads to, who knows? But so far, what it's led to something interesting down the road.
I see. All right. So Steve, what's it like growing up in Hamilton, especially since that's the reason you're a Ticats fan.
Yes, it sure is. I liked growing up in Hamilton. I really thought growing up in a kind of suburban West Mountain neighborhood was perfect for me. On the weekends, I could take the bus by myself, which I did from the time I was probably 12 or 13. You could take the bus downtown and go see a movie or meet up with friends, that kind of thing. Hamilton was, I guess, population 300,000 then. So, a good sized city with lots of stuff to do, but not too big as to be overwhelming. And then in 1978, when I finished high school, I went to the University of Toronto and decided to move to a much bigger city. And I've, with the exception of 1 year, been in Toronto ever since then. And I really I liked where I came from. I go back every weekend. My dad still lives in Hamilton. He's 92 years old. And I go back pretty much every weekend to go visit him and do stuff with him. So I see the city all the time. And like many cities, I put Toronto in this category too. It's got a lot of going for it, but it's got some challenges as well that I'm really concerned about and don't like the looks of. And both cities have a lot of work to do to live up to the promise that they represent.
Ah, okay. And are you currently residing in the Toronto or Hamilton?
No, I've resided in Toronto with the exception of 1 year when I went to school in the States. I've resided in Toronto since 1978.
Ah, okay. So Steve, how did you grow up to become a sports fan?
Oh, that's you blame my parents for that. We did a lot of it's funny. I was one of two boys, and my parents were, understandably concerned about what kind of trouble two teenage boys can get into on a Saturday night left to their own devices. And so we went to a lot of hockey games in Toronto. My parents had season tickets for the Leafs, and back then, I remember because I've kept the stubs. You could get into a Leaf game for $5 back then. Now you're hard pressed to get into a Leaf game for less than $200. But back then you could get in for $5. And we went to a lot of games. We would drive in as a family together to Toronto, go to games at Maple Leaf Gardens, and we became huge sports fans. And then I remember Monday morning, because the Globe still doesn't publish on Sunday, but there was no Sunday newspaper. So we had to wait for Monday for the game account. And my mother would read the game account to my brother and me over breakfast. And, we went to Tiger Cat games as kids. And then, of course, the Blue Jays came along in 1977, and we started going to Blue Jay games. And, we've just always been maniacs for sports. And then as we've gotten older, I started to go on baseball road trips with my dad, football road trips. And then when I started to have kids, we brought my kids along to some of those road trips. So you'd have three generations represented. My brother, the same with him and his kids. And we love sports for two reasons. Number one, certainly we are entertained by what happens on the ice, on the pitch, on the field, in the arena, whatever. We do love that on the diamond. We do love all of that. But we also love that it presents an opportunity for us to be together. And that's kind of, I think at this stage of the game, that's the main reason. I still want my team to win, but the main reason is I still love spending time with my brother, with my kids, with my dad. And, you know, baseball games or hockey games are great opportunities to get together and be with each other and talk. So it's all of that.
Okay. Beautiful sports story. Are you a fan of any literature or franchise?
Am I a fan of what? Sorry.
Are you a fan of any literature or franchise?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Probably not in the way that you think. Like I'm not
Oh,
you're thinking like Twilight or that kind of stuff?
I'm thinking like, oh boy, I can't even
Like not Harry
think of any
Potter.
books.
I've read the Harry Potter. I've read it. I've
Oh,
read the first Harry Potter book. Probably seen a bunch of the movies. Twilight, I think I read the first book and I haven't seen any of the movies. So I'm not too big into that stuff. Um, I read, first of all, 99% of what I read is nonfiction because I
oh,
just feel I need to know more about everything to be good at my job. So almost everything I read is nonfiction. And of course, all the interviews I do are about, well, the books I do interviews about are all nonfiction books. So that's mostly how I spend my time. I might read a book or two of fiction during the course of a year, but not more than that, which I appreciate is a terrible personal failing on my part. I know it is, but I just feel there's no end to what I need to know for my work. And so it ends up being nonfiction all the time,
oh,
almost all the time.
okay, okay. So Steve, what makes you love your job as a journalist?
It's a bunch of things, Nigel. I think number one, first and foremost, it's a chance every day to wake up and learn something new. And I am particularly partial to wanting to learn. I just want to keep, I don't know, the world is an endlessly fascinating place. And I just want to learn more about it, find out more about it, try to pass that information on to other people. So there's certainly that. I like people a lot. So the idea of working in teams to make that happen, I find very appealing. And it does go back to the fact that I look around at all the other occupations and I don't think I could be as happy doing anything else. I mean, I just could never be a lawyer or a doctor or somebody who, works in an office. I couldn't work at a bank. I couldn't, I'm probably not going to be, I'm not skilled enough to be a bricklayer or a construction worker. I'm not great with my hands when it comes to building stuff. So I'm kind of doing the only thing I really am qualified to do. And it just so happens that I love it as well.
Ah, okay, that's beautiful. So okay. And Steve, how do you do a good panel? And the reason why I'm asking this because I've done as part of my Toastmasters project, I've done a panel a few weeks ago about Disney, whether if they're losing their direction or it's still heading in the right way.
Well, in my experience, the best panels are the ones where the host does the least. So
Oh,
I think what you want to try to do is you want to try to kind of sow some seeds. You want to put some ideas out there, get some questions going, and then hope that the panelists, be they three, four, five, however many there are, just take the discussion up unto themselves and start talking to each other almost as if you're not there. And your job, if they go too far afield, is to sort of bring it back on topic. But in the main, your job is to get them talking and debating and engaging. And I think if you can do that, then it's usually successful.
okay. Okay. And okay. And as a Toastmaster, do you do speeches?
Every now and then, not very many. I've got a pretty thick schedule. So, when I
Oh,
was hosting the agenda, couldn't do very many because, of course, I was shooting a show every day. And then right now, I'm doing so many different things. I don't have a lot of time. But, once in a blue moon, I get invited to give a speech and it works out for my calendar. And so I do.
okay. All right. Okay, and Steve, right now it's tough for people these days to find jobs. If they want to go the same path as you, what are the things they can do right now to practice?
Well, you just used an important word there, and that word is practice. I think number one, I always thought that I had probably 2,000 bad shows in me before I could get any good. And if you can do those bad shows in an atmosphere which is a kind of, low risk, low consequence, then that's good. I did a lot of bad shows as a University of Toronto student on U of T radio. I did two radio broadcasts a week. I did a lot of play-by-play hockey for Blues football and hockey. Um, and I'm pretty sure I was terrible. But I did all that terrible work when very few people were listening, and it didn't cost me a job. So that by the time it came time to getting hired, I'd practiced enough and I'd had enough experience to be okay. Not good, but okay, and presumably able to get better. And that's what I would recommend to people as well. I would say practice as much as you possibly can, try your guts out and 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 just get better. People are looking for people who are good at something or who have the potential to be good at something. If you can get those 200 or 2,000 bad shows out of your system before you end up becoming a professional, that's all to the good.
Okay, that's good. And Steve, I think this might be a repeated question with another question, but I think this is the last question. What does the work you do right now mean to you and for your viewers?
I can't say what it means to my viewers. I think, it means a different thing to whoever watches or listens to whatever I do. Some people will get something out of it. Some people will get nothing out of it, and they'll move on. So I'd have to leave it to others to answer what it does for them. I know what it does for me is that it satisfies a need that I have to learn something new every day, to talk to people, to engage on issues, to create something and put it out there and let people decide themselves whether it has any value. And I've been trying to do basically that for 43 years. And I like the fact that I'm still doing it. I hope reasonably well. Um, and I hope to continue doing it for quite a while. But we'll see. The viewers and listeners have a way of letting you know that your best before date is over. And they just stop listening or they stop watching. But so far, I'm happy to say the numbers on the Paikin podcast are very good. We're getting people watching, we're getting people listening, we're getting organizations to sponsor it, which I'm happy about as well. Obviously, we need a little bit of money to keep the lights on, so that's good. And yeah, I'm gonna keep on for a little while longer anyway.
Okay. Okay, Steve, I think that's it for the questions. We're heading to the one. Let's head to the one last segment that is called quick fire. You just simply answer as many questions in under 90 seconds.
Good, let's do it.
Are you okay? Are you ready?
Good to go.
All right, here we go. So Steve, one word to describe yourself.
Curious.
What is your best journalism tip?
Be curious.
Oh, best artist you love to listen to.
Frank Sinatra.
Oh, wow, wow. Okay, one one everyday item you can't leave without.
I guess my keys, or maybe
Okay.
my wallet, my iPhone. I don't know, something like that.
Oh, okay. Mantra in life.
Say again.
Mantra in life.
Oh, I like the mantra. The what is it called? The motto from my high school was
Oh,
it was in Latin, but it translated to be willing is to be able. In other words, where there's a will, there's a way. I like that.
ah, okay. Best place in Ontario for a good meal.
Best place in Ontario for what?
A good meal.
Best place. I don't eat out at restaurants very much, so but I'll tell you what. There's one place I love to go. It's at Lawrence and Bathurst. It's called United Bakers Dairy Restaurant. And when I get together with my buddies that I went to school with 50, 55, and 60 years ago, that tends to be where we go.
Okay. Okay. Best place in Ontario to go road tripping or travel.
Well, I mean, I have a bias on this because I've got a little cottage on Manitoulin Island. We call it a camp actually in northwestern Ontario. So I think Manitoulin is heaven on earth. So I'd say the biggest freshwater island in the world, Manitoulin Island.
Okay. Okay, Steve. Steve. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time. Do you want to do it? Let's do a screenshot. Again, Steve. Thank you. Any feedbacks and comments today?
You put me through my paces. I'm glad it's over.
I got a bit. I was nervous.
No reason to be.
Okay. Okay. And anywhere we can find you?
Well, I'm on X at spaikin. That's
Oh,
Spaikin. And if you go to my website, stevepaikin.com, you'll find ways to get a hold of me there if you want to email me as well.
Okay. And again, Steve, thank you. Thank you for coming to my podcast.
Happy to be here, Nigel. Take good care. Have a great rest of the day.
You too, sir. Okay.